Discovery's board has officially now rejected Paramount's hostile bid, and they have issued a letter saying, "Hey, we are recommending to the board that you reject this bid." Okay, so why did they do that? They're doing it primarily because the deal isn't backstopped, right? What does that mean? It means that right now, the way that Paramount's describing how they're financing this, Warner Brothers is like, do you actually have the money? Because we're not sure you have the money. Because a lot of what they're using to backstop this is a revocable trust that's owned by Larry Ellison, the father of the head of Paramount Skydance. And a bunch of the people who've been putting money in and out of the revocable trust keeps changing and changing and changing and changing. And so right now, Warner Brothers is going, look, Netflix's deal, we can see their balance sheet. We can see their cash. We know what's going on. Okay? So, yeah, that's why they're rejecting it. Okay? So Jay, I'm going to start there. What are your first thoughts on that?
Yeah. So showing the group chat. Oh, I can't do that one. If I just do this one, it's like weird, but like there's a question in the chat. What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, yeah. We'll do that right after the segment.
Eggnog.
Let's do that after the segment.
Eggnog gone. Yeah, so I find this very interesting, and this is like one of those cases where like you realize you didn't know what you didn't know until you start looking into something you actually care about. So like I would have thought when they submitted the bid, right? Like it would have been very clear, oh, okay, you have the money or you don't have the money. I didn't realize that there was this like process in the background to actually evaluate. I guess it was kind of like when you go to buy a house, right? Like you get pre-approved up to a certain amount. And then yes, there's a lot of paperwork on the back end that takes like up to 30 days, but like you kind of already have proven that you have the money before you actually go and talk to a realtor. But so it's a little weird to me that like Paramount made an offer, but then like didn't really have secured financing to finance that offer. So like, what are you doing? I mean, like at that point, like Alex and I, we could have just like submitted a bid like, hey, we'll buy you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we could have come up with the financing either. But yeah, this one looks a lot shakier, right? And so that's the official reason they're doing this. Zaslav's also talking about kind of the when they were going through this process, some of the weird stuff that Paramount was doing that made him uncomfortable, and he was like, look, we can't talk about this. We're not having this discussion. It's inappropriate in the acquisition process. And again, there's some weird crap going on here. So here's another interesting part of this story, right? Because obviously we're in hostile bid territory. And again, as we reiterated in one of our previous episodes, which we'll put a card up here about that, the board is not the only one that has to approve it. The thing has to go to a full vote of the shareholders. If you are a shareholder in Warner Brothers, you get a say. And so here's the other thing that I think is really interesting. Netflix launched a new website. A brand new website called Netflix WB Together, right? And it's really pretty, right? And so it says, defining the next century of storytelling together, right? Netflix and Warner Bros. We got Harry Potter with 11. Okay, I like it. Complimentary offering, more choice and greater value. I'm not sure about that. More opportunities. I'm not sure about that. Here's the thing. What they're saying. So they've got all the transaction details as to how they're paying everybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Everything. Okay. What they're saying right now, what Ted Sarandos over at Netflix is saying is Netflix was not in the movie distribution business. We didn't do theatrical because that's not what we did. Warner Brothers is in the movie distribution business. Therefore, we're going to leave Warner Brothers alone. We want them to keep doing what they're doing. Look at and he brought up this year, Superman, Minecraft, Sinners, all these, the movies that Warner Brothers had a great year. That doesn't happen if you don't put them in theaters. So Sarandos is saying, no, it's going to be run as a separate division. There will be cross-pollination, right? For sure. But we weren't in the movie distribution business. Warner Brothers is. We need this. And he's saying because Netflix is not a traditional studio, because what happened with, like, say, the Disney acquisition of Fox, Disney has a head of PR, Fox has a head of PR. They don't need two. So one of them gets fired, right? There's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of layoffs at these things. One of the things he's being really specific about is he's going, we don't think there's going to be a lot of layoffs here, right? Because Netflix and HBO and Warner Brothers are two very different companies, right? So we want to keep them separate. They're complementary. We need this, okay? He's saying a commitment to the theatrical experience, right? We're going to leave them in theaters just like Warner Brothers is doing today. He's got a letter to the shareholders here, right? That they sent out, okay? And they're saying, look, this is why we want to do this, right? So I thought this was a very interesting move by Netflix to really, they're going after the shareholders. I think they're going after this politically. But ultimately, Jay, like, now that you've seen that website, like, what do you think of kind of Netflix's tactic here?
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of like this. This is trying to control like the narrative because I've read so many comments about like, oh, like Netflix is going to take over WB and they're going to like lay off people and they're going to like take it over and they're going to fuck up HBO or all of this shit. So there's like a lot of negativity towards this deal, which I think is like from Paramount's end, right? Like you want to kind of spread misinformation here and try to make Netflix look bad and have the people turn on Netflix. Keep in mind, like people have turned on Netflix in the past. There's been a lot of scandals, but anyways, so yeah, this is kind of like a PR move. Like they're trying to control the narrative and be like very upfront and be like, no, here's the facts. Here's what we're doing. Blah blah blah. So I think it's a great move.
I'm gonna go back to this real quick too because I think this is neat because they've got like all their presentations, all their infographics, all their press releases. They're like, here you go. We are gonna open the doors for you guys, right? We're gonna look at this. This thing is, yeah. So they've got the full deal overview here, right? This is what we're doing. Right? Here's the transaction summary. So if you own one share of Warner Brothers stock, as an example, you're going to get $23.25 in cash and $4.50 in Netflix stock. Right? Once the deal's done. Right? And the other thing is again, they're not trying to buy CNN. Paramount wanted the whole kit and caboodle. Right?
Yeah.
Netflix is like, we don't want that. We don't want any of the TV stuff. None of it. Which is again why I think they're transacting this as a better deal for the shareholders because the shareholders will still get a part of that deal when they spin off the other company, right? Yeah. The more I hear, I was worried about Netflix buying it. Obviously, we were pretty concerned about that. And as we said in another show, I don't know if Sarandos is lying. I hope he's not. I hope he's telling me the truth. But if he's not full of it, I don't see a downside right now for them. It's kind of a good deal for both sides.
Yeah. And I don't think he's lying, at least about that part. Like it just makes sense for them not to fuck with WB and just kind of like keep them going. Yeah, no, this is great. I like this.
So yeah. Anyway, obviously we've been covering this a lot. Let us know what you think. Or have you visited the new Netflix WBTogether.com? Are you interested in this? Do you think that Paramount's going to somehow swing this out? Let us know what you think in the comments below.